من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم. إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين. اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين آمين. اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد الفاتح لما أغلق والخاتم لما سبق ناصر الحق بالحق والهادي إلى صراطك المستقيم وعلى آله حق قدره والمقدار العظيم. بك رب العزة عما يصفون وسلام على المرسلين والحمد لله رب العالمين. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. ومن الناس من آمنا بالله وباليوم الآخر وما هم بمؤمنين يخادعون الله والذين آمنوا وما يخادعون إلا أنفسهم وما يشعرون في قلوبهم مرض فزادهم الله مرضا ولهم عذاب أليم بما كانوا يكذبون. The Almighty Allah continued providing explanation with regard to the identity of hypocrites, their characteristics, their attributes, and of course their state of mind. The Almighty Allah said, although they think in their foolishness that they deceive the Almighty Allah and the believers, scholars of Quranic exegesis are of the opinion that the hypocrites thought that they can deceive the Prophet and the believers. But the Almighty Allah took up this against himself instead of the Almighty Allah, because whatever you address towards the Prophet ﷺ, address to him. See, as we explained in our earlier session, with relevant verses in the Holy Quran that explain how the hypocrites will be deceived in the hereafter, how they will be marched along with the believers towards the mind. It takes a crazy state of mind for someone to even think he can deceive his own creator. Because even to have it in mind that you can deceive your parents, it takes a lot of courage, let alone who created you. So as if a question is raised here, why? Why is this terrible state of mind? The Almighty Allah responded to this hypothetical question saying, Fi qulubihim marad. What led them to this kind of situation is that they have a disease in their hearts, the disease of hypocrisy. Hypocrisy here is described as a disease in the Holy Quran. In fact, scholars of Tafsir said the reason why it is called disease here, it is because it implies skepticism. They are always skeptical. They don't believe in the revelation. They tend to not to believe in anything, because as I said earlier, the hypocrites do not have a religion. Neither were they Jews, nor were they Christian or even idol worshippers. They only have a skeptical state of mind. They don't believe in anything. All they believe in, all they share with other unbelievers is enmity and hatred to Islam, and that's all. What they share in common with the Jews and the idol worshippers is that they hate the Prophet ﷺ and no more. Not that they join them in their own creed or in their own devotion or in their own idol worshipping. No. They don't join any of these activities. They only share enmity to the religion and to the Prophet of the religion. That's all what they share in common with the unbelievers. So you can see how sick they are. At least for the Jews, they know they have a creed, or they have what they call a religion, Judaism. For the Christians, they have Christianity. For the idol worshippers, they worship idols. But in the case of the hypocrite, they worship nothing. All they know everything may be true. Only Islam that they believe that it is not true. And they cannot come out to profess this. They can only identify themselves as Muslim and then get along with the Muslim community so as to protect themselves from being attacked, so as to protect themselves for being considered unbelievers, and so on and so forth. في قلوبهم مرض. It is as a result of a disease in their heart. فزادهم الله مرضا. Then such disease, the Almighty Allah increased them in the disease. Here, فزادهم الله مرضا exegetes disagree on what exactly is meant here. Is it a prayer that Zadakallahu tulal umri, Zadakallahu rizqan, Zadakallahu afia? May the Almighty increase you in health, in wealth, in children, anything, elongation of life. Is it a prayer that may the Almighty Allah increase them in sickness? Fazadahumullahu marada. Because it may imply prayers. It may also imply a statement of fact that they are sick, and the Almighty Allah increase the sickness, increase the gravity of sickness, that the sickness is aggravated by the Almighty Allah. They are sick, they have disease in their heart which was aggravated, which was further aggravated by the Almighty Allah. And the wording used here can cover both, that it can imply prayers for the increment of the sickness. It may imply as well a statement of fact that the Almighty Allah aggravated the disease. Fazadahumullahu maradan. They are sick, quite all right. And the sickness is aggravated by the Almighty Allah. Just like he said, Idullu bi kasiran, wadi bi kasiran, in the later verses, where the Holy Quran will be described as an instrument with which some are guided and others are misled. But only those who are impious, وَمَا يَدِلُّ بِهِ إِلَّا الْفَاسِقِينَ. It misleads only those who are impious. Only impious people will be misguided from the Holy Book. Anyway, Fazadahumullahu marada also gave rise to another theological debate between scholars of Islamic theology. Does that mean that faith, hypocrisy, unbelief are such phenomena? Do they accept increment? For example, a faithful believer, that's a faithful Muslim, does he have his faith increased in whatever way? Is there any way that faith as a phenomenon can be increased? Some of the Islamic theological schools believe that faith is a stagnant. It does not increase, nor does it decrease. For example, if you believe in God, you believe in God. This condition, or this faith condition, that is, this condition of faith, can in no way be increased. Your belief in God is a static phenomenon that cannot be increased. Others say, no, it can be increased by righteous deeds. Just like the Holy Quran, those who say it cannot be increased, they said it is either you believe in God and all articles of belief, or you do not. If you do, you are a believer. If you don't, you are not. There is virtually no room for increment. Others say, no. Your righteous deeds play a very vital role in increasing the level and the strength of your faith. They supported their argument with quite a number of verses of the Holy Quran. The Almighty Allah said, وَإِذَا أُنزِلَ سُورَةٌ فَمِنْهُمْ مَنْ يَقُولُ أَيُّكُمْ زَادَتْهُ هَذِهِ إِيمَانًا فَأَمَّا الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا فَزَادَتْهُمْ إِيمَانًا وَهُمْ يَسْتَبْشِرُونَ وَأَمَّا الَّذِينَ فِي قُلُوبِهِمْ مَرَضٌ فَزَادَتْهُمْ رِجْسًا إِلَى رِجْسِهِمْ وَمَاتُوا وَهُمْ كَافِرُونَ. Whenever a new revelation is sent down to the Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him, the hypocrites will turn around and look at each other And they will ask each other when they come out from the presence of the Prophet ﷺ, is there anyone of you whose faith is increased by this very revelation? For them, it increased them in no faith at all. The new revelation did not increase them in faith. So they will be asking each other. The Almighty Allah responded to this question that فَأَمَّا الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا فَزَادَتْهُمْ إِيمَانًا وَهُمْ يَسْتَبْشِرُونَ. For someone to have his faith increase, there must be the faith in the first place. Faith is increased only when it exists. When it does not, in what way can it be increased? Have you ever seen anything non-existent being increased? No. For someone to have his faith increased, first and foremost, he must have the faith. So, فَأَمَّا الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا, the reason why your faith is not increased is that you do not have faith in the first place. But فَأَمَّا الَّذِينَ, for those who are faithful, فَزَادَتْهُمْ إِيمَانًا, the new revelation increased them in faith. وَهُمْ يَسْتَبْشِرُونَ, and you see them jubilating whenever there is a new revelation. You see them happy. وَهُمْ يَسْتَبْشِرُونَ وَأَمَّا الَّذِينَ فِي قُلُوبِهِمْ مَرَضٌ, as for those who are sick, those who have sickness in their heart, فَزَادَتْهُمْ رِجِسًا إِلَىٰ رِجِسِهِمْ, it increased them in sickness and unholiness. That is, the filthy condition of their mind is increased. رِجِسًا إِلَىٰ رِجِسِهِمْ وَمَاتُوا وَهُمْ كَافِرُونَ, and they will end up dying as unbelievers. فَزَادَهُمُ اللَّهُ مَرَضًا, and as a result of this, their disease is increased with the passing of every day, with every new revelation that increase believers in faith. In their case, they will have their faith, they will have their disease increased. So that means that new revelation always makes a difference. For the believers, it will increase them in faith. As for the unbelievers, it will increase them in their unbelief and their disease of hypocrisy. For hypocrites, they will have their hypocrisy aggravated by any new revelation. And for the believers, they will have their faith increased and strengthened by every new revelation. فَزَادَتْهُمْ رِجْسًا إِلَىٰ رِجْسِهِمْ فَزَادَهُمُ اللَّهُ مَرَضًا وَلَهُمْ عَذَابٌ أَلِيمٌ بِمَا كَانُوا يُكَذِّبُونَ. Certainly, a painful punishment is awaiting them in the hereafter for the fact that they refuse to believe, or they disbelieve in the message. In the recited in the recitation school of Nafi al-Madani, the version of his student Warsh, he recites it at Bima Kanu Yukadhibuna. For the fact that they disbelieve, they belie the message. Bima Kanu Yukadhibuna. As for other schools of recitation like Asim al-Kufi, the version of student Hafs, he recites it at Bima Kanu Yakzibuna. Bima Kanu Yakzibuna. For the fact that they keep lying to the believers and to the Prophet, claiming that they too are believers while they are really not. So both the recitation dialects will provide a wider concept, a wider meaning to the verse, because you need to add up all the dialects of the recitation for you to have a complete meaning of the verse. Bima kanu yukazibuna, for the fact that they disbelieve in the message. Bima kanu yakzibuna, for the simple fact that they keep lying to the believers, pretending that they are part of them while they are not. Bima kanu yakzibuna. Wa idha qila lahum la tufsidu fil ardi qalu innama nahnu muslihun. Whenever they are being preached by the believers that why do you behave as such? Why do you always have double standard? Why can't you just identify with the Muslim, with the believers, and just believe and avoid committing mischief in the land? Because by keeping relationship with the unbelievers, with the Jewish community of Medina, as well as the Arab idolaters, the Arab are idol worshippers, while you claim to be believers, it amounts to mischief. Stop doing this. You can't be part of us as believers, yet you are part of the unbelievers. Whatever happened among us, you take it to the unbelievers, you let them know of anything that we are discussing. That means that whatever we do it, in front of them. Because you are there, you will inform them. This is tantamount to mischief. So you should stop it. No. We are just trying to reconcile between the groups. What we are doing is reform. And this is part of the miracles of the Holy Quran. All those with mischievous plan to destroy the society, they will always claim that they are trying to reform the society. That is the common language of today. That's the contemporary language of today. Whenever you see some groups that want to destroy the ideology of a particular society, or they want to destroy the moral structure of the society, they say, no, we want to reform, we want to introduce some reforms in the social system, and so on and so forth. You see the miracle of the Holy Quran? No, we are just reformers. We want to reform. Our plan, our program, we want to introduce a reform program so that we can reform the social system of the society, and so on and so forth, when they want to destroy the society. We just want to reform. The Almighty Allah said, no. Allah innahum humul mufsiduna. Certainly these people are the real mischievers. What they are committing is the real mischief. They are the mischief makers. Allah innahum humul mufsiduna. They are the mischief makers. Walakin la yashuruna. Yet they don't know. They tend to claim that no, they are not. What they are doing is a reform. وَلَكِنْ لَا يَشْعُرُونَ وَإِذَا قِيلَ لَهُمْ آمِنُوا كَمَا آمَنَ النَّاسُ. And whenever they are being preached, they are being admonished, why don't you believe wholeheartedly in the same manner that the ideal believers believe wholeheartedly without any reservation? Why don't you also believe and accept the faith without any reservation? Urkulu fi salmi kaffa. Ya lazamanu urkulu fi salmi kaffa. Why don't you convert properly? Why don't you open your hearts to the faith and believe wholeheartedly? Aminu kama amana nasu. Believe in this as ideal Muslims. That is, believe in the same manner the ideal Muslims believe wholeheartedly without any reservation. Anuminu kama amana sufa'a. Do you expect us to submit wholeheartedly in the same way fools submit themselves wholeheartedly? A'udhu billah. Describing the companions of the Prophet ﷺ as fools. A'udhu billah. For them, because the companions, when they come to submit to the Almighty Allah and His Apostle, they do submit wholeheartedly without any reservation. None of them will have anything. In fact, all of them feel that the Prophet ﷺ is free to dispense in their belongings, in everything they have. They only wait for His own word of command, and they are ready to comply whatever He says, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. For example, if He commands them to march on an expedition, they are ready to join the troops and go out. If He commands them to make donation for a particular expedition to be carried out, they will donate, in a manner that will show you that they reserve nothing, and so on and so forth. So why don't you also submit? Aminu kama amanna. So why don't you submit and believe in him in the same manner true believers submit and believe in him? Then there's anuminu kama amana sufaha ala innahum sufaha. So they are not ready for this kind of belief, because in actual sense they are not believers. They are just pretenders. Just pretend to be believers. That is why whenever they say we believe, oh Prophet, we believe you are truly the Prophet. In Surah Al-Munafiquna, when they said, the Almighty Allah said, إِذَا جَاءَكَ الْمُنَافِقُونَ قَالُوا نَشْهَدُ إِنَّكَ لَرَسُولُ اللَّهِ وَاللَّهُ يَعْلَمُ إِنَّكَ لَرَسُولُهُ وَاللَّهُ يَشْهَدُ إِنَّ الْمُنَافِقِينَ لَكَاذِبُونَ. Whenever the hypocrites, whenever they come to your presence, they will shout out, نَشْهَدُ إِنَّكَ رَسُولُ اللَّهِ. Certainly we bear witness to the fact that you are truly an apostle of Allah. The Almighty Allah will respond to this by saying, Wallahu ya'lamu innaka rasul. Yes, it's quite true that the Almighty Allah is very much aware that you are truly his apostle. But Wallahu yashhadu innal munafiqina lakazibun. In the same way they claim to have borne witness to the fact that you are truly an apostle, so does the Almighty Allah bear witness to the fact that they are liars in their claim. They don't believe in that. The fact that you are truly an apostle, of course, is a reality. But for them to claim to have believed in that, this is an obvious lie. Wallahi shahadu inna munafiqina lakazibun. Anuminu kama amana sufa ala innahum sufa. The Almighty Allah said they are the fools, because the believers, the Almighty Allah engaged them in a contract, and they accepted the terms of the contract, and the terms were explained to them vividly. The Almighty Allah said, Inna Allah hashtara minal mu'minina anfusahum wa amwalahum bi anna lahumul jannah yuqatiluna fi sabilillahi fayaktuluna wa yuktaluna wa'adan alayhi haqqan fit tawrati wal injili wal Qur'an. ومن أوفى بآيدي من الله فاستبشروا ببيعكم الذي بايعتم به وذلك هو الفوز العظيم. The Almighty Allah said, the Almighty Allah has already bought over the lives and belongings, the lives and the property of the believers. In return, he will give them paradise. He guaranteed them admission into paradise. In return. You see, the terms of the contract are explained. يُقَاتِلُونَ فِي سَبِيلِ اللَّهِ. Then in what way would they submit their lives, their property to the Almighty Allah? Is that whenever they are called to join the troops on an expedition, to go and fight in the cause of Allah, they will be ready to march out. يُقَاتِلُونَ فِي سَبِيلِ اللَّهِ فَيَقْتُلُونَ. They will join the troops, they will join the apostle of Allah in fighting in the cause of Allah. فَيَقْتُلُونَ وَيُقْتَلُونَ. And when they join the troops in the course of fighting, when they join the troops in fighting for the cause of Allah, they may lose their lives, they may kill their enemies, they may be supported by Allah to kill their enemies. They are ready for that. They may lose their lives as well. وَيُقْتَلُونَ. And they are ready for that. وَعْدًا عَلَيْهِ حَقًّا فِي التَّوْرَاةِ وَالْإِنْجِيلِ وَالْقُرْآنِ. This is a promise that the Almighty Allah has taken upon himself, not only in the Holy Quran, in the Torah, the Bible, as well as in the Holy Quran. So, this is the kind of submission that they are not ready for. That is why when they are called upon to believe and submit themselves, going by the terms of the contract, they will say, "Anuminu kama amana sufa," shall we believe in the same way fools believe in the message? Allah innahum the Almighty Allah said, no. They are the fools. In fact, as if there is no any other fool except them. Allah innahum hum sufa, as if the definition of fools is restricted only to them. Allah innahum hum sufa, as if there is no any other fool. Walakin la ya'lamun, but unfortunately they don't know. They don't know that what they stand to gain by submitting to the Almighty Allah, because the Almighty Allah, whether you submit or not, He will still dispense in you the way He wants. It's better for you to even accept. When you accept, you have the reward. When you refuse, He will still do whatever He wants with you. With your life, with your property, with whatever you have. Nothing will change. Just if you say, I do not submit, doesn't mean that He will keep off. He will still dispense in you and your property in whatever way He wants. And nothing, absolutely nothing will happen. And you will not have any reward. Because after all, it is against your will. But when you do submit, He will still do whatever He wants. The same thing. As He will do for those who do not submit. And yet, in your own case, you will be rewarded. Why? Because you accepted. So acceptance is only a state of mind. You don't even have to accept for Him to do whatever He wants. It's even better to accept. It's more profitable. It's wiser. And no foolishness can supersede the decision of someone not to even submit. Because if you refuse to submit, it doesn't mean that the Almighty Allah will keep off and allow you to do what you want. No, He will still do whatever He wants with your life. And you end up in the hellfire. You see the foolishness here? Allah innahum suwa. Certainly these kind of people are the real fools. As if there is no any other fool except them. But unfortunately, they don't know. I think because of the time we have to stop here. Inshallah, we are going to attend to some questions if there is any, before we round up.
Assalamu alaikum, Sheikh. No question actually. No question.
No question? Okay.
Yes, sir.
Then Alhamdulillah, we thank the Almighty Allah. May the Almighty Allah accept our devotions, our prayers, our fasting by the virtue of the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. May the Almighty Allah count us among the recipient of His mercy, forgiveness. May He count us among those that are going to be redeemed from hellfire in this great month of Ramadan by the virtue of the Holy Quran, by the virtue of the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillah. Assalamu alaikum.